Harry Potter and Gandalf the White. Chapter 9. The New Shadow. "Who's Saruman?" asked Ron, still mesmerized by the voice and looking up at Harry with dazed eyes as though considering the offer. "A dark wizard from another time who has joined with Voldemort," responded Hermione in her new ethereal tone. "He's responsible for my nightmares," said Harry bitterly. "Snap out of it, Ronald," shouted Hermione, giving Ron a sharp prod in the ribs with her elbow. "We have a job to do." Ron blinked, shaking his head clear of the trance. "Right, sorry," he muttered, finally snapping out of the voice's spell. "Let's go," said Harry, leading the way out of the chamber. They moved swiftly and silently through the castle's corridors, their footsteps echoing off the stone walls, the silence almost suffocating after the deafening clamor of battle. They raced to Dumbledore's office, on the way passing defenders who walked as if under a heavy trance, congregating in the Great Hall. The hypnotic effect of Saruman's voice was evident in their vacant expressions. "Put on your cloak, Harry," hissed Hermione, who had not failed to notice the looks Harry was getting from both teachers and students. Clearly, the voice had had a hypnotic effect on those who heard it, but not Harry and Hermione. Had their new rings protected them? Thought Hermione. Quickly, Harry threw the invisibility cloak over himself, and they continued their hurried journey through the castle. Finally, they reached the stone gargoyle guarding the entrance to Dumbledore's office. Harry whispered the password, "Acid Pops," and the gargoyle sprang aside, allowing them to rush up the spiral staircase and into the office. Dumbledore's office was as Harry remembered it, unaffected by the battle, filled with strange and wonderful objects, and the ever-watchful portraits of former headmasters and headmistresses. Fawkes, Dumbledore's phoenix, let out a soft squawk of encouragement from his perch. Harry went straight to the desk, finding the vial with the portion of Voldemort's soul and the sword of Gryffindor just as Dumbledore had instructed. He grabbed both items and turned to leave. But before they could exit, one of the portraits spoke. "I've seen that locket before," said the portrait of Phineas Nigellus Black. "There is one like it in Grimmauld Place." "You've seen what?" asked Ron. But he was cut off by Hermione. "I remember. How could I forget? It was in the cabinet we cleared out," exclaimed Hermione loudly, clapping a frustrated hand to her forehead. "Remember, no one could open it." Harry almost dropped the sword of Gryffindor in shock. He recalled the little locket Sirius had thrown in the trash when they had cleared out the dusty old sitting room. "Sirius threw it out," snarled Harry in frustration, banging his fist on Dumbledore's table, causing the Phoenix to squawk angrily. "Wait," said Hermione, holding up a hand. "Maybe Kreacher managed to save it. He did sneak a lot of stuff back to his bedroom." Without a moment's hesitation, Harry summoned the old house elf. "Kreacher," he called loudly. There was a sharp crack, and the disheveled house elf appeared before them, standing upon Dumbledore's desk. "Master called Kreacher." "Kreacher, did you take a locket out of the rubbish when we were clearing Grimmauld Place last year? A locket that looked like this?" He held up the fake locket for Kreacher to see. Kreacher's eyes widened with a mix of fear and sorrow. He hesitated, his bony fingers twisting anxiously. "Master means the locket that Master Regulus took." "Master Regulus?" repeated Harry in confusion, but Hermione pressed on. "Yes, Kreacher," she said in a soft voice. "We need to know what happened." "The mudblood is talking to Kreacher," muttered the house elf while looking around, pretending not to have heard Hermione. "Don't you dare call Hermione that," bellowed Harry, but he was cut off. "We don't have time for that," hissed Hermione. Harry grit his teeth. She was right. He took a deep breath, calming himself before addressing the loathsome house elf again. "Kreacher, tell us everything you know about Master Regulus's locket." The house elf took a deep, shuddering breath and began explaining how Master Regulus had sacrificed his life to recover the locket and sworn Kreacher not to tell his family what had happened. "Do you still have it?" asked Harry hurriedly, his heart racing. "Yes, Master." "Bring it to us, Kreacher, quickly," Harry ordered. But Creature did not immediately move to follow his new master's orders. "We needed to complete Master Regulus's work," Hermione followed up. At this, Creature's expression softened. "From Master Regulus," he whispered before nodding and disapparating. He reappeared a few minutes later, clutching the locket in his gnarled hands. They couldn't believe their good fortune, but there was no time to stop and celebrate. Harry took the locket carefully. This had to be the real Horcrux. He could feel dark magic radiating from within its cold metal casing. "Thank you, Creature. You've helped us finish Master Regulus's work. Now go, help the other house elves defend the castle." "Yes, Master," Creature nodded and disapparated again. As Harry turned to leave again, a glint of something caught his eye. It was one of the Deathly Hallows Dumbledore has shown him months ago. The ring set with the resurrection stone sat upon their headmaster's desk. Harry paused for a moment, then picked up the ring and without hesitation slipped it onto his finger. Suddenly, he was surrounded by familiar figures. His mother and father appeared first, their faces filled with love and pride. "We're so proud of you, Harry," said Lily, her eyes shimmering. "You're almost there, son," added James, beaming at him. "Next," Sirius materialized, wearing a cheeky smile. "You've got this, Harry. We're all with you." "What's death like?" asked Harry, awkwardly. "What comes next?" "In many ways, the next life is more exciting, son," laughed James. "There are many living realities and worlds existing at the same time, but only one land of the dead. Those with souls tainted by evil are banished to the void, while all other beings are blessed with entry into the undying lands. We've met Elrond, whose ring you now wear, Galadriel and Aragorn, and many other incredible people from history. So you have nothing to worry about, but right now you have a job to do, Harry," added Sirius, stepping forward and placing a hand on Harry's shoulder. To Harry's surprise, the hand felt solid and warm. Harry nodded. Before he could respond, another figure appeared at his side. He recognized the face of Cedric Diggory. Diggory gave Harry an encouraging smile. "The twilight is not the end. I have seen the dark night. It is a sign of new beginnings, Harry." "Thank you," whispered Harry, finding encouragement in his words. Harry then removed the ring and handed it to Ron. "Keep a hold of this." With the vial and the sword in hand, they left the office and made their way to the Great Hall. The sight that met them was heartbreaking. The surviving and injured defenders had gathered, some receiving treatment, others standing in grim silence. Dumbledore moved among them, healing the injured with the power of his elven ring. Swiftly, Harry approached Dumbledore and handed him the vial with the Horcrux and the sword. "Professor, we've got it." "Excellent work, you three," said Dumbledore, his eyes twinkling despite their grim circumstances. "We also managed to recover the real locket," said Harry, proudly holding it up for the astonished Dumbledore to see. But how?" stammered Dumbledore. "How did you manage to find it?" "It's a long story, Professor." Dumbledore scrutinized both Harry and the locket for a moment before nodding. He took both Horcruxes and the sword before handing them back. To Hermione, he gave the vial. To Harry, he returned the locket, and to Ron he gave the sword. "Hermione, when I give you the signal, open the vial. Only when I give the signal, do not forget," Dumbledore instructed. Surveying Hermione keenly, he did not fail to notice the change that had come over her. "Harry, at the same signal, I also want you to open the locket. You may need to use Parseltongue to do so. And Ron, if the opportunity presents itself, use the sword to kill the snake, Nagini. It is likely it's also a Horcrux, and only this sword can destroy it." The three of them nodded, acknowledging their headmaster's instructions. Shouldering the sword proudly, Ron had spotted his family across the hall and promptly left to join them. As Harry watched, he noticed Professor Gandalf enter the hall. The entire school had witnessed this mighty wizard's power, and his presence now drew the attention and admiration of all. Gandalf locked eyes with Dumbledore, and the two great wizards exchanged a brief nod before retreating to a quiet corner to confer. Harry and Hermione followed to join in the final council. "Albus," began Gandalf, frustration heavy in his voice. "The enemy conceals his strategy well. I have glanced into the Palantir but have failed to pierce the veil of secrecy. I cannot see what devilry he now brews. I am unsure of the enemy's next move and now fear something deeper is at work, something we might have long overlooked." "I fear you are correct, Gandalf, my friend." Dumbledore nodded gravely. "This is no chance assault, but design long in the making. News has reached me of the Ministry's fall. We should not expect reinforcements. None, at least, that can break the siege on the school." Gandalf's expression darkened. "So we are truly alone. Such was the assault on Minas Tirith," he muttered, more to himself, at last resigning himself to the inevitable path he must take. He may have to use the ring to ensure victory. A possibility that had been weighing heavily upon him. Such power was almost guaranteed to turn the tide, but at what cost? The last time he had used its full power, it had turned him to madness, the betrayal and killing of his friends and the dominion of Middle Earth. And although he had mastered the ring, it had been thousands of years since he had unleashed it. He stood abruptly. "The hour is almost up," he said loudly in his deep, rumbling voice, standing tall and calling for the attention of all gathered within the great hall. "The battle is far from over. Victory is at hand, if we can but for a little while remain unconquered." The hall grew silent as all eyes turned to Gandalf, searching for hope within his words. "Upon a long-ago field of battle, where the ripples of victory remain visible to this day," a great man once said, "I see in your eyes the same fear that would take the heart of me. A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship, but it is not this day. An hour of wolves and shattered shields, when the age of men comes crashing down, but it is not this day. This day we fight. By all that you hold dear on this good earth, I bid you stand." None who heard his passionate words in that moment remained unmoved. They filled all with the hope they had lost and with a fierce longing to resume battle. "Our enemies believe us to be broken, but they underestimate the strength of our resolve," continued Gandalf. Beside him, Dumbledore stepped forward, echoing Gandalf's rallying cry. "It lifts spirit to see all gathered together. Remember, we fight not just for ourselves, but for all who cannot. We fight for our friends, our families, and the very world we cherish. Stand firm and know that each moment we resist, we grow closer to victory." Gandalf raised his staff, the light from its tip casting a warm glow over the defenders. "Prepare yourselves," he said. "The time is upon us. We will face our foes with courage and with strength. Hold fast to hope, for as long as we breathe, there is a chance for victory." With these words, the emboldened defenders of Hogwarts readied themselves for the imminent battle, hearts and minds united in the face of overwhelming odds. The Great Hall buzzed with a renewed energy, for although the fighting had been fierce, casualties had so far been limited. The combined might and skill of their headmaster and Gandalf had done much to shield the school from the worst of the enemy's attack. Harry looked around for Ron and noticed him alone in a corner of the Great Hall, in intense conversation, though none was there to share it with him. Had the battle broken him? Had he lost his mind? Worried, Harry rushed over to him. "Ron, what's going on?" Ron turned to Harry, his face lit up with excitement. "You'll never guess who I spoke to, Harry. I spoke with Merlin." "You spoke with who?" asked Harry, bewildered. "You know, the legendary wizard with a massive great beard," Ron responded excitedly, holding up the ring with the resurrection stone. "You spoke to Merlin?" gasped an exasperated Hermione as she too joined them. "Yeah, well, he said I should speak to Salazar Slytherin," Ron said, his grin widening. "He said what?" Harry asked, not expecting the conversation to take such a strange turn. "You spoke with Slytherin?" said an envious-looking Hermione, her eyebrows shooting up in shock. "I did," Ron was grinning ear to ear. "He appeared right after Merlin, who by the way told me this sword." Ron held the sword of Gryffindor proudly above his head, was once owned by King Arthur. "Wait, King Arthur," said Harry, also grinning. "That's so cool." "Well, spit it out. What did he say?" cut in Hermione angrily, frustrated at Ron's inability to get to the point. "Oh yeah, sorry Hermione. Slytherin said there's something important hidden in the Chamber of Secrets. But we already know about the basilisk, Ron." Ron's expression grew serious. "That's what I thought, but he said that the chamber holds an even darker secret, and that's what the enemy wants." "But that makes no sense," said Hermione. "What else could possibly be hidden in there?" "More importantly," interjected Harry, "there are students hiding in there now." Ron continued. "He told me, within the chamber, there is a door like a gateway or bridge to another place, a void, within which there is an evil that has been bound for tens of thousands of years that is prophesied to be released before the end of the world. We can't let Voldemort or this Saruman anywhere near the Chamber of Secrets." His words hung heavy in the air for a few moments before Harry or Hermione responded. "What sort of evil?" asked Hermione, but Harry cut in, looking down at his watch. It was almost midnight. They only had 10 minutes before the attack resumed. "We have to act fast," he said quickly. "We can't let them get to whatever it is." "But how do we get the students out safely?" Hermione asked, her brow furrowed in thought. "We'll need help," replied Harry. "We need to tell Dumbledore and Gandalf about this. They'll know what to do." Hermione and Ron nodded, and the trio swiftly made their way back to the corner where Dumbledore and Gandalf were still deep in conversation. As they approached, Gandalf turned, his keen eyes assessing. "Professors," Harry began urgently, "we've just found out what Voldemort's after." "This is no random attack," added Hermione. "What do you mean, Potter?" "They're after something hidden in the Chamber of Secrets. Apparently, there's a door to a void containing an ancient evil that is prophesied to be released before the end of the world." "But how do you know this?" asked Dumbledore. "Ron used the ring to speak with Salazar Slytherin." "Salazar Slytherin?" repeated a surprised Dumbledore, but in his eyes was reflected deep concern. "If what you say is true, we may be in far greater peril than I'd originally anticipated." A fear spread across Gandalf's face, one that had been absent since his mighty contest with the Dark Lord upon the slopes of Mount Doom. An ancient evil bound for tens of thousands of years. "Albus, we must not allow Voldemort or Saruman to gain access to the chamber. If it is what I fear, then not even the power of the ring will save us." "What is it, Gandalf?" asked Dumbledore. "I will not name it in hope that I am wrong." Dumbledore nodded and did not question further. "Then we must act immediately," he said. "Gandalf, you and I will continue to hold the outer perimeter of the castle. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, you must go to the chamber and ensure that it is protected. Take with you those who are willing." "But, Professor," Hermione interjected, "the students are hiding there. We need to get them out first. You must work together to evacuate them while we hold off the attack. Take them to the Room of Requirements. They will be safe in there." At that moment, the doors of the Great Hall burst open, and in walked Moody, Kingsley, and a group of seasoned witches and wizards from the Order and the Ministry. Their arrival was accompanied by Aberforth. "Hogsmeade is overrun," he reported angrily. "They burned down the Hog's Head." To his annoyance, Dumbledore smiled. Reinforcements were an unexpected but most welcome sight, bolstering the defense. The room buzzed with a renewed hope as the new arrivals took their places among the defenders. "Glad to see you all made it," Dumbledore said, his voice carrying both gratitude and relief. "We have much to discuss and little time." Gandalf nodded. "The enemy grows bolder. We must be prepared for anything." Before they could delve into battle plans, the castle shook violently as an almighty explosion rocked the walls. Dust and debris rained down, and the defenders braced themselves. "I'm ready," growled Moody, drawing his wand. We don't have much time. Dumbledore's voice cut through the chaos. You three go now. Protect the Chamber of Secrets. Without a moment's hesitation, Harry, Ron, and Hermione turned, sprinting towards the exit. Dumbledore and Gandalf rose from their seats, their presence commanding the attention of every defender in the Great Hall. To your positions. Dumbledore called out, "Defend Hogwarts." And with that, Dumbledore and Gandalf led the defenders out to battle.
Thanks for joining us on this adventure. If you enjoyed the journey and are eager for more wild fan fiction, don't forget to hit that like button, share with your fellow fans, and subscribe for more episodes. And if you're as enchanted by the idea of Middle-earth meeting Hogwarts as we are, make sure to check out our series exploring this magical crossover. Your support brings these worlds to life. Until next time, keep the fantasy alive.